I spent 3 years building a life with Lauren. We had just moved into our apartment 6 months ago, and I was already thinking about proposing. Everything felt close to perfect. She was the woman I wanted to marry, the person I imagined growing old with. But there was one small issue I thought would resolve itself over time. I never expected that 2 kids ages 5 and 7 could destroy everything I had worked so hard to build. I thought loving her would be enough to endure anything. That was until she made me choose. Before we get into this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you have ever been forced to choose between love and your own self, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you will want to stay until the end of this one. My name is James, I am 32 years old, and I work as a software engineer. For the past 4 years, I've been working remotely from home, which gave me flexibility and a decent income. I loved my job. It allowed me to create my own schedule, attend meetings from my living room, and still have time for the things that mattered to me. Lauren worked as a manager at a retail chain store. Her schedule was unpredictable. Some weeks she worked mornings, other weeks she closed the store late at night. Despite our different routines, we made it work. We met 3 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was standing by the snack table laughing at something someone said, and I remember thinking she had the most genuine smile I had ever seen. We started dating shortly after that night. Our relationship grew naturally. We discovered we both loved cooking together on lazy Sundays, binge-watching crime documentaries, and going hiking on weekends when the weather allowed. After 2 years of dating, we decided to take the next step and move in together. We found a 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs of Denver. It was not fancy, but it was ours. The first 6 months of living together were wonderful. We learned each other's habits, adjusted to sharing space, and built a rhythm that felt comfortable. I started saving money for an engagement ring. I had a plan. I was going to propose on our 4th anniversary somewhere meaningful, maybe on a hiking trail where we had our first real adventure together. Lauren had an older sister named Megan. She was 4 years older than Lauren and had been divorced for about 2 years. Megan worked as a nurse at a local hospital, and her shifts were all over the place. Sometimes she worked days, sometimes nights, and weekends were never guaranteed off. Megan had 2 children from her marriage. Tyler was 7 years old and Kaylee was 5. Their father, Brad, had completely disappeared from their lives after the divorce. He moved to another state, stopped paying child support, and made no effort to stay connected with his kids. For all practical purposes, Megan was raising them alone. In the beginning, I only saw Tyler and Kaylee a few times during family gatherings. Thanksgiving dinner, a birthday party here and there, that sort of thing. My first impression of them was not great, but I tried to keep an open mind. Tyler was extremely hyperactive. He could not sit still for more than 30 seconds, and he seemed to find joy in doing exactly what he was told not to do. Kaylee was different, but equally challenging. She screamed whenever she did not get her way, and her tantrums could last for what felt like hours. Whenever I mentioned their behavior to Lauren, she always had an excuse ready. They are going through a tough time. They miss having a father around. Megan is doing her best as a single mom. I understood that. I really did. But something in my gut told me there was more to it than just difficult circumstances. About 3 months after we moved in together, Megan called Lauren on a Friday evening. She had to pick up an extra shift at the hospital on Saturday and needed someone to watch the kids. Lauren agreed immediately. She did not ask me. She did not check if I had plans. She just said yes. I came home that Saturday afternoon after running some errands. I'd picked up groceries and was looking forward to a quiet evening. When I opened the door, I froze. The apartment looked like a disaster zone. Toys were scattered everywhere. Cushions from the couch were on the floor, and there on the living room wall was a large drawing made with colored markers. Tyler had decided our white wall was his canvas. I walked further into the apartment and found Kaylee in the kitchen. She had somehow gotten her hands on a can of soda and spilled it all over my laptop, which was sitting on the kitchen table. Fortunately, the laptop was closed, so it survived. But the table was a sticky mess. Lauren was in the bedroom trying to calm down from what had clearly been a chaotic day. When I asked her about the wall and the mess, she just smiled tiredly and said, "Kids will be kids. Do not stress so much about it." I spent the rest of that evening cleaning. I scrubbed the wall, but the marker stains would not come off completely. I wiped down my laptop and the table. I picked up toys and put cushions back in place. By the time I finished, it was almost 11 at night. Lauren had already gone to bed. I told myself it was just one time. It would not happen again. I was wrong. What started as a one-time favor quickly became a regular arrangement. Every single weekend, Megan would call with a reason why she needed Lauren to watch Tyler and Kaylee. Sometimes it was an extra shift at work. Sometimes it was a parent-teacher meeting that somehow always fell on a Saturday. Sometimes she just said she needed time for herself. And every single time, Lauren said yes without hesitation. She never asked me if I was okay with it. She never checked if we had plans. The kids would get dropped off Saturday morning and would not leave until Sunday evening. Our weekends vanished completely. I tried to adapt at first. I told myself this was temporary. Megan was going through a hard time, and family helps family. But weeks turned into months and nothing changed. Every Friday night I would hear Lauren's phone ring and my stomach would tighten. I knew what was coming. The hiking trips we used to take together stopped. Our lazy Sunday cooking sessions disappeared. Even our quiet evenings watching movies became impossible. Tyler and Kaylee demanded constant attention, and any moment of peace was interrupted by screaming, fighting, or something breaking. I finally decided to talk to Lauren about it. One Tuesday night after a particularly exhausting weekend, I brought it up as gently as I could. I told her I understood that family was important, but I felt like our relationship was suffering. I asked if maybe we could set some boundaries, limit the babysitting to once or twice a month instead of every weekend. Lauren's reaction surprised me. She got defensive immediately. Her voice rose and her eyes filled with tears. "That is my family, James. Megan needs me. Do you not understand what she is going through?" I tried to explain that I was not against helping, but I needed our relationship to be a priority too. She did not want to hear it. She accused me of being selfish and went to bed without saying goodnight. I let it go. I convinced myself that things would get better once Megan got her life together, but the kids' behavior only got worse. Tyler started showing open defiance. He would look me straight in the eye and do exactly what I told him not to do. One afternoon, I asked him nicely to turn off the television because it was time for lunch. He ignored me. I asked again. He still ignored me. When I walked over to turn it off myself, he kicked me hard in the shin. It left a bruise that lasted for 2 weeks. Lauren saw the whole thing. I expected her to discipline him to at least acknowledge that what he did was wrong. Instead, she said, "He did not mean it. Kids do not know how to control their emotions at that age." I stood there, my leg throbbing, wondering when excuses had become more important than accountability. Kaylee had her own way of making life difficult. She demanded 100% of Lauren's attention at all times. If Lauren tried to talk to me or even look at me for too long, Kaylee would throw a tantrum. She would cry, scream, and refuse to calm down until Lauren focused entirely on her. One weekend, I discovered that Kaylee had gotten into my office area. She had found a pair of scissors and decided to give her doll a haircut, but she did not stop there. She also cut through my laptop charging cable. When I found the severed cord, I felt my frustration reach a new level. I had to order a replacement and wait 3 days to be able to work properly. But the worst incident involved Tyler and my wallet. I always kept my wallet on the dresser in our bedroom. One Sunday afternoon, I noticed it had been moved. When I checked inside, $20 was missing. I knew I had a 20 in there because I had planned to use it for coffee the next morning. I found Tyler in the living room and asked him calmly if he had taken money from my wallet. He looked at me with a straight face and said no. His denial was so confident, so practiced, that for a moment I almost believed him. But I knew the truth. I told Lauren what happened. She said she would handle it. But there were no consequences for Tyler, no apology, no lesson learned. When Megan was informed, she laughed it off. "Tyler's just going through an exploratory phase. Do not make such a big deal out of it." I was not making a big deal out of it. I was watching a 7-year-old learn that lying and stealing had no repercussions. My work started suffering. As a remote employee, I needed quiet to concentrate. I had video calls with clients, deadlines to meet, and projects that required focus. But with Tyler and Kaylee running through the apartment every weekend, concentration became impossible. They screamed, they fought, they knocked on my office door every 10 minutes asking for snacks or demanding attention. The breaking point at work came during a major client presentation. I had spent weeks preparing for this meeting. It was with a potential client that could have brought significant revenue to our company. I set up in my office, closed the door, and asked Lauren to please keep the kids occupied for just 1 hour. 15 minutes into my presentation, Tyler burst through the door, screaming about wanting to play video games. The client saw everything. I tried to recover, but the damage was done. The call ended awkwardly, and a few days later my manager told me we lost the deal. He also mentioned that some people in leadership were questioning my professionalism. I started losing sleep. The stress was affecting my health. I tried working from coffee shops on weekends, but when I did, Lauren accused me of avoiding my responsibilities. I could not win. I decided to have a serious conversation with her, not an argument, but a calm, logical discussion. I picked a Wednesday evening when we were both relaxed. I explained my perspective carefully. I told her that I loved her and wanted to build a future together, but I also explained that we were not Tyler and Kaylee's parents. Megan needed to find long-term solutions. Our life together was being consumed by her sister's needs, and it was not sustainable. Lauren listened quietly. When I finished, she started crying. She called me selfish again. She compared me to her parents, saying they always put family first and would never turn away someone in need. I tried to clarify that I was not asking her to abandon her sister. I was just asking for balance, for boundaries, for some consideration of our relationship. She did not respond. She just got up and went to bed. Nothing was resolved. A few weeks later, I received some good news at work. Despite the earlier setback, I had been offered a promotion. It was a significant step up with a substantial raise. I was thrilled. I wanted to celebrate with Lauren to remind us both that good things were still happening in our lives. I made plans for Saturday evening. I booked a table at our favorite Italian restaurant, the one where we had our first real date. I bought flowers. I even picked out a nice shirt I knew she liked. For once, I wanted us to feel like a couple again, not like unpaid babysitters. Friday night came, and so did the phone call. Megan had met someone new and had a date planned for Saturday. She needed Lauren to watch the kids for the entire weekend, and just like every other time, Lauren agreed without asking me first. She canceled our dinner reservation like it was nothing. I felt something shift inside me. For the first time in our relationship, I raised my voice. I told her this was unacceptable, that I had planned something special for us, that she could not keep putting her sister before our relationship. We argued loudly, something we had never done before. She accused me of not understanding. I accused her of taking me for granted. We went to bed angry, sleeping on opposite sides like strangers. Saturday morning, Megan dropped off the kids as usual. I tried to keep my distance to focus on some work I had brought home. But Tyler had other plans. In our bedroom on my dresser, I kept a watch that had belonged to my grandfather. It was not expensive, but it was priceless to me. My grandfather had passed away when I was 20, and that watch was the only thing I had left of him. I wore it on special occasions, and the rest of the time it sat safely in its box. I heard a crash from the bedroom. When I rushed in, I found Tyler standing over the broken watch. The glass face was shattered. The band was snapped. He had taken it out of the box and thrown it against the wall. When I asked him why, he just shrugged and said he wanted to see what would happen. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I picked up the pieces of my grandfather's watch with shaking hands. I took them to Lauren and asked her to please finally do something about Tyler's behavior. Her response broke something inside me. "He is just a kid, James. It is just a thing. You can get it fixed." I called Megan. I told her what her son had done. Her response was even worse. "It is just an object. Please do not scare my child over something that can be replaced. That watch could not be replaced. My grandfather could not be replaced." And in that moment, I realized that neither Lauren nor her family would ever truly respect me or the things I valued. Sunday evening, after Megan finally picked up the kids, Lauren and I sat down in the living room. The tension between us was thick enough to cut. I decided to make one final attempt to save our relationship. I spoke calmly and clearly. I told her I could not continue living like this. I asked for specific changes. I wanted the babysitting reduced to once a month at most. I wanted Megan to find alternative childcare solutions, and I wanted Tyler and Kaylee to face actual consequences for their behavior. Lauren rejected everything. She told me that Megan was her sister and the kids were her niece and nephew. She said this was her family, and if I wanted to be with her, I had to accept them completely. Then, she said the words that ended everything. Step up or get out. If you cannot accept my family, then we do not have a future together. I sat there in silence for a long moment. I looked around the apartment we had built together. I thought about the 3 years of memories, the plans we had made, the future I had imagined. Then I thought about the past several months, the disrespect, the dismissal of my feelings, the constant sacrifice of my needs for people who did not even appreciate it. I stood up slowly. My voice was calm when I spoke. I choose to leave. Lauren's face went pale. She had not expected me to actually go. She started crying, saying I was overreacting, that we could work it out. But I was done negotiating with someone who saw compromise as surrender. I packed a bag with my essentials. I called my best friend Marcus and asked if I could stay with him for a few days. He said yes without hesitation. Within an hour, I was walking out the door of the apartment I had called home. I did not look back. The first few days at Marcus's place were strange. His apartment was small, just a one-bedroom with a couch that became my bed. But it was quiet. For the first time in months, I could actually hear myself think. Lauren called constantly. Her messages evolved over those first days. They started angry, accusing me of abandoning her. Then, they turned desperate, begging me to come back so we could talk. Megan called too, telling me I was a selfish person who had ruined her sister's happiness. Even Lauren's mother reached out, trying to convince me that I was making a mountain out of a molehill. I did not respond to any of them. I needed space to process what had happened. During the second week, I found a studio apartment available for a 6-month lease. It was small but clean, and most importantly, it was mine. I signed the paperwork and moved in with the few possessions I had taken with me. Almost immediately, my life started improving. I slept through the night for the first time in months. My work performance recovered quickly. My manager noticed the change and praised my renewed focus. I got assigned to a new project that I was actually excited about. Weekends became mine again. I went hiking alone, rediscovering trails I had neglected. I read books. I cooked meals I actually wanted to eat. I started feeling like myself again, like the person I had been before I started losing pieces of myself to accommodate others. Lauren's calls became less frequent. From every day, they dropped to a few times a week. About a month after I left, she sent me a long text message. In it, she admitted that she had put too much pressure on me. She acknowledged that she should have listened when I tried to talk to her. She asked if we could meet somewhere neutral to talk. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. When Lauren walked in, she looked exhausted. There were dark circles under her eyes that I had never seen before. We sat across from each other, two people who had once planned a life together, now feeling like strangers. She told me what had happened since I left. Without me there to share the burden, she had been babysitting Tyler and Kaylee alone every weekend. She finally understood how overwhelming it was. She finally saw what I had been trying to tell her. But that was not the biggest revelation. Lauren had discovered that Megan had been lying to both of us. All those extra shifts at the hospital, all those parent-teacher meetings, they were not real. Megan had been using us as free babysitters while she went on dates, visited spas, and enjoyed her personal time. She had manipulated her own sister without any guilt. Lauren confronted Megan about the lies. They had a massive argument. Megan eventually admitted the truth. She had been taking advantage of Lauren's kindness and my tolerance. She saw us as a convenient solution to her childcare problems and never considered the impact on our lives. Sitting in that coffee shop, Lauren apologized to me. She said she was wrong to dismiss my concerns, wrong to give me an ultimatum, wrong to choose her sister's convenience over our relationship. Her words were sincere. I could see the regret in her eyes. I listened to everything she said, but I did not make any promises. After that meeting, I took time to truly reflect on everything that had happened. I started seeing a therapist, something I had never done before. We talked about boundaries, about self-worth, about the difference between being supportive and being taken advantage of. My therapist helped me understand something important. Leaving that apartment was not selfish. It was self-preservation. I had been drowning and no one had bothered to throw me a rope. In fact, they had been adding weights to pull me down faster. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my relationship with Lauren. I joined a hiking club and met new people who shared my interests. I started rebuilding the social life I had sacrificed without even realizing it. 3 months after I left, I felt like a different person. Not just recovered, but genuinely better than before. My promotion at work came through officially with a salary increase that allowed me to start saving seriously again. I moved into a nicer apartment with actual space for an office. For the first time in years, I felt in control of my own life. During those 3 months, Lauren and I met a few more times. She had changed too. She had finally set boundaries with Megan. Babysitting was now limited to once a month, planned in advance with clear expectations. Megan had been forced to hire professional childcare and learn to handle her own responsibilities. Tyler and Kaylee were seeing a behavioral therapist. According to Lauren, they were showing improvement. Structure and consequences were finally being introduced into their lives. Lauren asked me for a second chance. She promised things would be different. She said she had learned from her mistakes and would never take me for granted again. I thought about it carefully. Part of me still cared about her. 3 years of memories do not disappear overnight, but I also recognized that I had changed during our time apart. I had learned my own value. I had discovered what I was willing to accept and what I was not. I told Lauren that I was not coming back, not because I was angry, not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed a partner who saw me as a priority, not as an option. I needed someone who would stand beside me, not in front of her family while I stood alone behind her. Lauren accepted my decision with grace. We agreed to remain friends, to wish each other well. There was no hatred between us, just the quiet acknowledgement that sometimes love is not enough if respect is missing. We still talk occasionally. She is doing well, and I am genuinely happy for her. Megan has apparently started taking more responsibility for her own life and her children. Tyler and Kaylee are apparently much better behaved now. As for me, I live alone in my apartment, and I have never been more at peace. I'm open to love again, but I'm not rushing into anything. I know what I deserve now. I know that healthy relationships require mutual respect, clear communication, and boundaries that both people honor. Looking back, I learned 3 important lessons from this experience. First, real love never demands that you abandon your self-respect. Second, setting boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary for survival. Third, sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do, not the weakest. I do not know when love will find me again. Maybe tomorrow, maybe years from now. But I know one thing for certain. I will never lose myself trying to keep someone else, because the right person will never ask me to. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been given an ultimatum that forced you to choose between someone you loved and your own well-being? What did you do? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more than you know. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories like this one, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for spending this time with me. Whatever you are going through right now, I hope you remember that your peace matters, your boundaries matter, and you deserve someone who sees your value without you having to prove it every single day. Take care of yourself out there.